You're listening to Mind, Body, Home with your host, Sara Ann. Big energy this week. We have the Lunar New Year on Wednesday, the 29th, which marks the first new moon of 2025. I'm seeing a lot of memes and reels about how January feels so heavy and so long, right? With all that has been happening in our news and in our media with politics and natural disasters, of course, ongoing world wars, right? And we are feeling that energy collectively, globally. But you might also be feeling this really powerful energy of heaviness, right? Like that's the word that comes to me to describe it on a very personal level as well, meaning things that are, there are things that are probably going on in your own life that have an effect on you and your immediate family, and you're really feeling that same heavy, almost intense feeling. And so we are being called to shed that heaviness this year, that weight as we step into the new year, the year of the wood snake. So the Chinese celebrate the Lunar New Year, also sometimes called Chinese New Year. And there's always an energy and an element and an animal that aligns with the energy of the upcoming year. And we are leaving the wood dragon of 2024. And I'm choosing the word softening into the snake. And I'm going to give you a few words to describe the snake because there tends to be like this fear of snakes, right? For so many people. I mean, myself included, I'm not immune to that fear. I definitely do not like seeing snakes. However, in doing some of my research for this episode and what the year of the snake really represents, I feel like I'm softening a little bit when, thinking about coming into contact with a snake. So, understanding, I think, that snakes they're sort of elusive and hidden and in a bit kind of squirmy, right? Like they're squirming on the ground. It makes them a little bit unusual. And I think that we as humans, we tend to sort of squirm ourselves when we see or think about a snake. And I really think that the snake is just misunderstood. So, one of snake's keywords or characteristics that highlights this year, 2025, is transformation. And putting that in context with the fear that I think we sometimes feel when we see a snake, it's almost as if there's this undercurrent of being afraid of change. Perhaps there's this unconscious fear that when we see a snake, it rattles us, right? Like, no pun intended, but it exposes our deepest fear. And for a lot of people, there is a deep fear of change, right? Because if we fear change, that brings up the possibility that we are not, or we have not been living in alignment with our truth, right? Or living in alignment with the life that we want to lead. Deep down, this brings up a lot of shame and even guilt that we've been living out that we haven't been living out our greatest potential or living up to our greatest potential. So, like, I think for some, that sort of fear can really run deep. And so seeing a snake in a very unconscious way brings up that fear of transformation. And that's what this year's snake is here to guide us towards. So what I love about nature and her elements is that she is full of animals and plants and all sorts of ways and clues and messages to help guide us back to our truth, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the snake, the energy of yin, and the element of wood, which are both supporting the snake this year. And then I'm going to give you some ideas and ways for you to embrace this new energy for 2025 and in your home. So last week I talked about, well, I guess not last week, it's 2 weeks ago, I talked about the energy of 9, as 2025 represents a 9-year numerologically speaking. I talked about focusing on the back center of your home, which in Feng Shui is known as the fame and reputation center. This is how others perceive you or how you want to be perceived. And this particular area is supported by the fire element, which is also the element of the snake. And then I also shared with you that perhaps you might want to put some focus and attention on the family and community or new beginnings center of your home. And that area is supported by the wood element, which is also the supporting element for 2025. So these two episodes really go hand in hand. And so my hope is that you'll take some time this week to embrace the new year with some intention and focus. Focus is my word of the year. And as I said, I'm going to share some additional ideas for you to implement this week alongside the Lunar New Year. So I want to just talk a little bit more about the snake and its supportive energy of yin and the element of wood. So, as I mentioned, the snake is all about transformation. They are also very clever. They are wise and they're often hidden. Snakes are very close to the ground. Therefore, they're close to the earth and they have a really strong, grounded energy. They're always listening. Therefore, they're very highly intuitive, and they need that sensibility in order to survive. And because they are transformative, they shed their skin, they release what's no longer needed. They are masters at letting go. So you might want to ask for yourself, what do I need to shed? What do I need to let go of? What do I need to do in order to show up differently if that's what I'm desiring? Transformation usually goes hand in hand with healing. So this is a time for healing. This is a time for stepping into that new version of ourselves and how we relate to one another and our planet. This is not the time to be afraid of the snake, right? Because fear is such a low vibration, and that vibration is what keeps us afraid and keeps us stuck. The snake is here to show us its true meaning and purpose, which is to embrace transformation. That in doing so, it's very natural and it's also very necessary for our survival. So let's just shift towards the element of wood and the energy of the year, which is yin energy. So a yin wood year means that this transformation, again, we're talking collectively and on a personal level. This transformation that is unfolding, it is quiet and it's internal, meaning that it's happening within, right? Like being the change we want to see. It starts with us, right? It's a slow and steady and soft transformation. That's the energy of yin. Softening from last year's dragon energy, which was very yang. We're shifting to a yin, a very softer snake energy. It's not forceful. The snake is cautious before it strikes, right? It gives a lot of warning before it needs to strike. It hopes that it doesn't have to strike. She prefers to warn you at first, right? And I'm using the pronoun her because yin is female energy. All of this energy is going to lead to growth for the better, right? It's sort of like a mom who just wants the best for her children. But she might lovingly nag her children and incessantly, remind them of things in order to get their attention to avoid possible chaos or some unfortunate event, right? Yin energy brings steadiness, it brings flexibility. It asks, where can you be softer? Where can you be less forceful? Where can you allow a more flow state? So that's yin energy. So this is a really great time this year to focus on self-development, making time to understand the mind, body, home, emotional connection to yourself and how you respond to things or show up in the world or within your own relationships of all sorts, right? So, welcoming the transformation, welcome the shedding of the skin that you've outgrown. You no longer need it. It's most likely weighing you down. It's very heavy energy. So wood energy represents growth. It represents new beginnings. It's springtime energy, right? It's very exciting and it's a welcoming change. The snow is melting, the ground is thawing. It's time to notice those seeds that were planted in the winter that are starting to sprout. And oh, how exciting! How do I keep the momentum going? Right? It's noticing that daffodil coming up. It's like yes, it's a joyful feeling, right? It's that joy of driving a new car or opening the front door to your new home or the beginning of a new relationship. It's that sort of excitement and joy. It's an exciting time. It's not one to be feared. And going back to the heaviness that I spoke about at the beginning, we can't continue in fear. We must be grounded and stabilized, and we must be listening and stepping up and doing our part, just as a mother would stand up for her children, right? We have nature's full support with the year of the Yin Wood Snake. I think a lot of us already know that the energy this year it's going to be an intense year. But the snake herself, she is not intense. She is not fearful. She is very wise, intuitive, grounded. She knows her purpose and what is required of her in order to step into that purpose with authority and authenticity. So, what can you do to embrace this energy? How can you bring this energy into your home? I already spoke about the two guas that I recommended putting some attention on. So go back and listen to my previous episode. Between that episode and today's, I think you're going to have a really well-rounded action plan for the Lunar New Year. I think it will really connect some dots, hopefully bring about some aha moments for you. But also familiarize yourself with the Bagua in general over your entire floor plan. The Bagua is a tool that I use heavily with all of my clients. There is a link in the show notes for you to download a copy for yourself. What am I doing to embrace the Lunar New Year at home? I'm going to be enhancing my wealth corner, in addition to the other areas that I mentioned just before. For me specifically, I am due for a financial upgrade in my life, and I know that I have full support of that in my astrology, being a cardinal sign. I'm a Libra and a Capricorn rising. My husband is an Aries, and so there's a lot of cardinal energy working in our favor this year. And we also have an extension of our home that is our wealth corner. So the back wall of our home, our primary bedroom, is extended off the back of the house, which means we have an extension of our wealth corner, which is a really, really auspicious thing to have. So this home is ready to fully support our financial well-being, and I can tell you that I am definitely ready for that. I'll also be doing a deep cleaning and space clearing of the entire home. I love using sandalwood or Palo Santo for clearing. Both are really great for grounding and purifying. Sandalwood specifically has been used for centuries to create more calm, balanced, spiritually uplifting environments. It has been used historically in sacred spaces and places of worship. Of course, you can always use what you have. So if that's a smudge stick or another piece of incense, a bell, or even just clapping your hands or playing some music in the house, that's going to also help transform the energy of the space. So smoke and sound are, great ways to transform any energy, specifically in your personal space. You'll just simply move from room to room while holding your own personal intention for the clearing. You'll be thinking about shedding that skin, holding on to what you're ready to let go of and what you're ready to step into for this new year. It's, new year, new you, and, you're asking your home to be a supportive vessel in that. It's as easy as that. Clearing can be done so many ways. If you Google it, you will return many results of many different people giving you different feedback. Um, we tend to overcomplicate it. It's really not that challenging. You're not going to mess it up. It's not possible. You are simply holding space for yourself and for your home to support that. The only thing I suggest is when you're done, I do to open up a few windows for 20 minutes or so, just to let fresh, new air sort of circulate the house. It's sort of like releasing um, any stagnant energy or energy that you're ready to let go of, and sort of welcoming in new air and energy into the space. If you're interested in exploring more of the Chinese culture, then I certainly encourage you to read up on that. There's things like bringing the color red into the home. Red is very auspicious in Chinese culture and in Feng Shui. Filling red envelopes with money and gifting them to children is highly auspicious. It returns luck and prosperity back to you. And I say just giving where you can give is a great way to invite abundance and prosperity into your own life. So many are suffering right now and in many different ways. So perhaps just getting involved and giving back in some way and sticking to that for at least a year or perhaps longer. I think that's a great course of action to do at this time of year, and sort of dedicating yourself to that. I decided earlier after the California fires that Jade Scott Design will be donating every month to disaster recovery. A portion of my profit goes to disaster recovery relief. Home being such an integrated piece to my company and business and purpose, I want to ensure that people are getting back on their feet, that they have a space to call home that just sits very heavily with me. um, so I selected Global Empowerment Mission that's headed by Bethany Frankel and the Be Strong Project. I just think Bethany does an amazing job of getting boots on the ground and, like she always says, getting money to the people so that they can just purchase what they need with some dignity. That line very specifically struck a chord with me, and so I'm happily giving um, what I can to her corporation and her project. So I also talked with the kids about, just going into GoFundMe, once a month, and just finding a purpose, a cause, a family that resonates with us, and donating towards it as a family. I think it's a wonderful way to teach children that giving back, especially financially, it's a wonderful thing to experience, and it's a shared joy between you and other people who are going through an unfortunate time. And, just the joy that it brings you to be able to help someone through that is something everyone should experience. And so this greatly aligned, this act of charity, is something that I've never done. It's something I always wanted to do, but I always felt like I didn't have enough money to be charitable. But I decided to just, let that go. Like, there's a lot of ways in which I can be charitable. And I think that act, embracing that act, is um, directly aligns to my determination and desire to attract more abundance back to me. So, like the elements and the nature of life, it's all a cycle, right? It's all about giving and receiving. What you put out comes back to you. And so I'm really embracing that energy for myself in 2025. So, overall, those are my Lunar New Year recommendations. To recap, listen to my last episode on 2025 as a 9 year, and bring that into alignment with this episode and the year of the Yin Wood Snake. In the show notes, download a copy of the Bagua and find your family and your fame centers. Look at the Bagua. Is there another area on the map that you want to particularly focus on for this year? And I encourage you to sit with the energy of the snake a bit. Take what resonates from this episode and journal on it, or just sit with it. What are you ready to shed? Um, and once you know, what are you ready to, invite in? Ask your home for support in bringing that all about and give your home a good cleanse, a good clearing, right? And lastly, how can you show up for others? Where can you give more time, energy, resources? I'm intuitively sensing that with all this heaviness in the world, that we need to really come together and help one another. I think now more than we perhaps ever have in history. We are ready to transform for the better, not to stay quiet in fear, certainly not to go backwards in time. I was just saying to my husband that, whether you voted for him or not, I believe that our president, President Trump, is going to be the great unifier. And I think it's sort of a really twisted way to think about it, given if you're not on his side of the fence, how that's possible. But I really believe that for me, it's what I'm clinging to in order to stay focused and aligned with what's important to me and to not let my own fears and mental health suffer because of what I'm witnessing. I believe that in a really perhaps twisted way and in a way that maybe our human minds can't wrap our head around, he will be the great unifier of the people. So I don't know. Take that if it resonates and ponder for yourself, or just leave it out. That's what I love to say. Take what resonates, leave out the rest. The snake is here to remind us that it's time to move gently towards growth and healing with excitement and joy. It's yin energy, it's mothering energy. It's done with love and care and attention and full support. I'm also here for you if you're ready to step into 2025 and embrace whatever is calling you, whatever is waiting for you, but you're still clinging to a little bit of that fear and uncertainty. I'd love to hear from you. Perhaps working alongside me as your guide could be a great benefit for you. We can look at your home's energy and ensure it's set up in a way that supports your healing or your transformation through my home realignment offering. Or we can work more deeply and intimately through the Mind Body Home Alignment Program, which is 12 weeks of one-on-one coaching and includes home realignment, all bundled together. More information and ways in which to get in touch can always be found on my website, jadescottdesign.com. And that's it. Happy Lunar New Year. Until next time, my friends, I'm sending so much love, gratitude, and a very healing and prosperous new year.